Thank you. All right, I will call to order this special meeting of the Scottsdale Unified School District. The date is Thursday, June 22nd, 2017. The time is 3:08. We'll start with a roll call from my far left. Sandy Kravitz, Pam Curdy, Barbara Perleberg. Board members Hartman and Beckham are absent and have recused themselves from this discussion and possible vote today, citing conflicts of interest. We do have a quorum. We will move directly to our discussion and possible board action item. 2A, the governing board will discuss and possibly take action regarding negotiations for the purchase, sale, or lease of real property located at 3811 North 44th Street, Phoenix, Arizona 85018. Dr. Birdwell, would you like to begin the discussion?
About 2 weeks ago, Ms. Smith and I met with Nate Nathan and Ryan Duncan as the first sale that we had fell through, and we were not willing to extend that time for them. And we met with them and discussed the dollars that we had been offered in that particular sale, and from the time that this piece of property went on the market in 2015, how much has changed. And the discussion led back to what is the real value of this property on today's market, and if we put it back out there, given what we've gone through, given the commissions that we've been through, environmental studies, what should we truly be asking? And they came back to us. Actually, we met with them here. We met with them twice now. The second meeting, they came back and brought us the comparisons, the comparability studies with housing, with commercial, and basically the conclusion of which we just provided you the part A of this, which came back to on the second page that this is, we were looking at a $27 per square foot, and we're at a 30. And so that, had we stayed with that first sale, which was 3.1, I think it was, 3.2, we actually would have taken a loss that, although I remember when I early came on, there was a discussion about we had received bids that were higher, bids that were lower, but because of the density of the high dollar values, we never went there as a district. So coming back to say, well, if we put this back out on the market and we drop it back out there, what should we be looking for? So we had looked at this as a 4.6 sell, that it has the potential to be sold at that, given the mediation of the fact that we know that we had some environmental issues on the property, the fact that we knew what the problems were, that the prior buyer went through in trying to purchase it. Now, the biggest issue that we faced was a community issue. The city and us both faced that issue together, and a lot of it had to do with the density of potential buyers. That the community did not want high-rise, apartment complex, high-density condos, anything like that built. It's been now, we just confirmed on a phone call with Nate Nathan that it has been out there for 2 weeks, and in that 2-week period, because it's had such a high profile, they actually have someone reach out, and in this case, it's Hospice of the Valley, reach out and say, we'd like to make an offer to the school district. This is perfect for our use. And they are actually coming to the district wanting to go into a negotiation starting with and they have listed a desire to purchase the property at $4.4 million, which is about $250 under what we believe we could list it at, which we think is a really good opportunity for the district. Since I received this 2 days ago, I also reached out to Wally, with Wally Graham, with the HOA Association, who I had met with prior about their concerns, and asked how he personally felt the HOA would feel about a Hospice of the Valley. He has responded to me with a very favorable and positive expectation that this might be a potential sale for us, because it is such a nice match to what the community would look for. Low traffic, when you look at the description of what they're talking about doing on the property, there's also an educational component to it. I sent him the description of the purchase so he understood what the intent of Hospice of the Valley was, and he has gone into their website and looked at who they are and what they represent. So you have a solid buyer with a good price, with a good intent. I reached out to Michelle Marshall, who's on vacation, and asked her, does the governing board have the ability to move forward with the sale? And she responded in an email that I think we can enter into an agreement with board approval, Although she did say, I wonder how you feel about zoning issues, because that was part of what we ran into the first time. So legal counsel says we could move forward. Nate and Associates are still under a procurement contract with us, so we have everything legal from the procurement side, and there are, in front of you are really kind of two options. You can move forward with beginning the process of the sale and discussion of the process with the Hospice of the Valley, or the governing board could say, we're going to post this out there for another 2 or 3 weeks and see what other kind of buyers might be interested. It's my recommendation, Michelle's recommendation, that you have a good buyer in front of you, and you may want to heavily consider that this is a good purchase. And given the unofficial conversation that I had with the president of the HOA, a very favorable community opportunity. So that's where I'm at with this. So we'll take any questions you might have, and I have read the contract here. Michelle has, by the way, read the contract as well.
Yes, and if I may say something here, if you look under the purchaser's use revision, they also commit that students from the school district can have a learning experience and training, and also as a model place for dementia and Alzheimer's. I've seen these. My mom had that years ago in Dallas. They had a place, and it really is amazing what they can do. There's a certain period where you can really have some quality of life and give a day back to an adult who's the stressful caregiver. So I've had experience with it, and I know it can be a very good program. So socially and ethically, morally, it's a quality option.
This would, by the way, in authorizing us to go forward with working through this, there is one piece that we would counter respond, and then we wouldn't just accept this, because in this agreement it talks about us paying their realtors 3%, and we would not accept that. When what was out there on the market said we would only be paying our representative, and that they would have to pay for theirs. So that 3%, we would counter that they must pay the 3% to their real estate representative, to Cushman and Wakefield. We would not pay that. So this is not a blanket. We would accept it. We would counter and begin to work with Nathan and Associates to see if they would be willing to accept it.
Do we know what, this sounds really good, do we know what the height or how many stories they're planning on building? Is it single, was it in here? I skimmed this, but I wasn't sure if it was in.
Yeah, it's a 10-bed assisted living.
I got the impression of what.
Yes.
I got the impression single story.
Yeah,
we don't clarify that.
Definitely in the 2 stories.
Right, I didn't think so, but I didn't want to assume anything.
We could make sure that.
No, because of community issues. Zoning, I know there's something in here about the zoning that could take a certain amount.
Yeah, they would have to go through rezoning up to nine months to get rezoned.
So then the sale wouldn't close, obviously, until after that, okay. And then, what about environmental issues with the property?
We've done the environmental study, and we have the study. They have asked that the seller would provide to them the study, and we would do that. We've already done it, so there's not another expense with that, because it's.
So they're aware of the environmental issues that may be associated with the property?
The old print shop, so.
Okay, so I was thinking, well, that, okay.
Thank you, Dr. Burnwell and Laura. You mentioned that the property has a $4.6 million value. Can you talk a bit about where that figure came from? Yeah. And is it, another follow-up question is it $4.6 million based upon the current zoning, which I think is R10? Because, let's be honest, if it were zoned multifamily housing, it would have a much higher value, right? So I just want to see where that $4.6 million is coming from, and if it's based on its current zoning.
Yeah, so the comparables they did the multifamily comparable as well, but I think when you talk about this dollar amount, what they tried to do was we asked them to focus on small commercial storage warehousing, because we knew we ran into problems when we talked about multiple family condo.
Yeah.
You could range that much higher if you could get into a more dense population, but we know that we will not be a good neighbor if we were to, we have the ability to zone it in that manner, and sell it with that in mind. But we have a community who, has expressed extreme displeasure in us doing that. And matter of fact, the issue ran into, I'm not sure that if we sold it to somebody who wanted to do that, that the city would approve the rezoning in order to do that.
Because the city goes through their zoning process of community outreach, and that keeps maintaining the whole thing.
Which is what happened with Dan Tile.
So do you know, and if not, could we get Nate on the phone? Do you know what the zoning is for this proposed use? Is it R10 or is it something else?
I think it's still at R10 for the moment, but I don't know what they actually zone that. But let's give him one. Well, actually, let's see.
Right, I'm trying to look through.
The property is still R1-10, so, and they know they have to rezone,
I don't know if they want.
but I don't know what their classification is. So let me get Nathan back on the phone and see if I can get him to answer some of that for you.
They can do the assessment, the market assessment.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we can ask him some of the market assessment questions. Hi, this is Denise Burwell calling from the Scottsdale School District, and Nate is expecting my call. No. Well, I just hung up with him about 5 minutes ago, and he said if we need him, call him back. So he said he would be in the office. Denise Burwell.
And I'll double check. Just joined up.
Yeah, I don't see anything in there that mentions their zoning. This other April thing refers to the latest reductions in R Street.
Hi, Nate, it's Denise Burwell. I'm going to put you on speaker in the governing board meeting here with the rest of the board members present. Thank you. All right, you there?
Hello, everybody.
So, one of the questions that we had is, do you know what the zoning of Hospice of the Valley is?
I'm not sure if it's a medical use they would be or office. There's a category called RO, which is residential office, and my guess it would fall under that category. I can find out from Paul Gilbert pretty quick here.
Okay. And do we have a second question?
I'll say it and you can repeat it, because there's problems.
I'm going to put you closer to the board so they can ask questions.
Hi, Nate, it's Pam Kirby. The $4.6 million value, is that with the current zoning of, the underlying zoning, which I think is single-family housing?
No, you don't have underlying zoning. The problem you have on your property is it's always been a school. And when we went down the last time to hear the Al Stevenson, the planning director down in Scottsdale, Phoenix, your general plan says school. So when we talked about densities, they said we can't recommend densities because there is no zoning on this. There's no, the general plan says school, and so you have to look at the surrounding neighborhood, which is R110, and which is about 3 to the acre. And so he said, if anything, that's probably what the zoning should be on your property, but that's problematic for all the school zone property, and for all the property you own. If that's the case, the general plan is all inconsistent with what we
So the $4.6 million value is based on what zoning? What category?
Well, the 4.6 value is going on a per square foot based on what the comps rate. So the comps are $27 to $40 a square foot up and down 44th Street, 32nd Street, Indian
what? What are we comparing
For
to?
office building, for mini warehouse, apartments are $27 to maybe $30 a foot if you can get it, but that's all based on higher density.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we as a board, if we're evaluating this offer against a $4.6 million value, that is a value assigned to a zoning that is comparable to what the offer land use intends to be.
Well, if you appraise the property, I think you had an appraisal done in the mid $2.8 million, if I'm not mistaken.
2 years ago.
Yeah, and so I think today, under the existing zoning, it probably wouldn't go up much because it's not zoned for any of the uses we're talking about. That, the value between 4.1 and 4.6 million is subject to rezoning and building permits. That's how your offers are gonna come in. That's what
Right.
anyone who
So I just want to make sure that I'm being clear here. I'm trying to make sure that the $4.6 million value, what we're being told the property is worth, is against the same land use that's actually going to be used by this offerer.
you can rest assured that is.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to get to. Thank you.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Nick.
Any other questions for me?
I guess I'll just ask one clarifying question. I did read it in the letter, but regarding zoning, as far as value of this land, from what my understanding is the rezoning into a multifamily use is unlikely.
The rezoning for a multifamily use with a density over 50 units, 50 units total, is not possible.
Okay.
There are potential home builders that could build condos on here and probably justify $1.5 million plus or minus 9.
Okay.
That would be way more controversial going 2 or 3 stories. You know, you're gonna have the same neighborhood's gonna come up. If we get I believe you get offers on that if we went back to the builders. But you're gonna have the same issues as we have
Yeah.
in town.
So really spending efforts trying to evaluate what the land would be worth with that use really is kind of unnecessary. Or just it wouldn't be feasible. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, we'll let you get back to your meeting. We thank you for taking this break. All right, thanks so much.
Okay, bye, guys.
There's no guys here.
Generic. We should take a pause.
We should take pause, yes. Building, locked down with Fort Knox.
Yeah.
Thank you for checking.
I don't see that.
She's in Alaska.
Oh, everybody's in the way.
She's got sporadic reference. That's where she's from.
All right, will resume. Any other questions? From board members? Yes, board member Kirby.
I just want to clarify that it's my understanding when we first put this property out in the market, we gave a date certain in the future for all bids to be in. And that was 18 months ago or so. One of those bids, one of those offers fell through about 2 weeks ago. Well, the one that we were negotiating with actually fell through about 2 weeks ago. A month ago. So now we are okay to consider this new offer without having to put a date certain in the future again.
Correct. We basically, over the last 2 weeks, have put it out there to kind of get a sense of, and just to let people know that it's back on the market. During the time it was in escrow, it was not on the market. And even though sometimes they received call, and what they told them is they were welcome to put backup bids, but we did not receive any of those. So it was cleanly back on the market 2 weeks, but we've had someone who's been, I guess, watching the process and interested in the property.
Would we still be accepting backup bids?
You can always accept backup bids when something, all the way through the process, in case it falls through, then you know who to call to say, the first step has fallen through, are you still interested? We certainly will have that opportunity to do that.
Well, my feedback, or, no, so this out for consideration is, if the land value for this proposed use is approximately 4.6 million, I'm relying on the number you have in front of you. The offer in front of us is 4.4 million. We do have an environmental issue that we do need to consider. Because of that environmental issue, I would be comfortable with the 4.4 to start beginning there. But clearly, we wouldn't discount further in the future because of that same environmental issue, right?
Right, and the fact that these folks have to rezone. So there's a cost to them on rezoning as well.
Right, but that should be built in their offer. And then secondly, as the seller, we will not pay the buyer's broker fee, which is also one of the items in here that you mentioned earlier. Right. Those are the two starting points that I see.
No, I agree. Did you say earlier that they are aware of the environmental issue?
Yes.
So,
I'm assuming
Yeah.
that's built in. That's
built
in,
yeah.
which is why it's less than the 4.6.
Right, and that's, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to be on record, because I don't want them coming back and saying,
We didn't know.
yeah, the environmental, we're going to drop it another 200.
Right. No, I agree. You know, I agree with the 4.4.
As a starting point, and this is a starting point for negotiations, right?
Right.
Well, you know, what they've done is, this is, an offer, we counter offer. We put in the corrections of things and the clarifications like, affirming a single storage, single story, 3% broker fees to be paid by, their broker fees are to be paid by them. That's our counter piece of that, and we come on board.
Is it the recommendation of Nathan Associates to begin the negotiation at a 4.6 price?
No, it's a recommendation that this is a good value on this property, that we should accept that and take consideration, accepting it with them picking up their own 3%. He said that was the one thing we need to make sure that we countered on.
And no reduction based on the environment?
No, he said that should not be an issue and we should stay to this price.
Well, I would certainly add that I agree that this buyer and the user of this property is very advantageous, I think, to the neighborhood, to our neighbors, to apparently our students as well.
Yeah.
As, yes, having experience with this company as well, I think they would make excellent neighbors for our neighbors. So had that as a factor in my decision making as well. Very desirable buyer.
Okay, hang on a minute.
Okay, closing cookie.
This letter from Nathan, on page 2, it says, we would, can I read from it?
Yep.
We would now suggest a minimum asking price of $30 per square foot, which equates to 4.6 million. So that's the minimum. So we're now taking the minimum value.
Yeah, and Nancy, what he was saying was, is that this is the minimum value, but to get a higher value, we would have to go through believing that the city would allow for greater density and go through that process again. And given the prior sale and the problems we ran into with density, he's concerned you would not go higher than that because of it.
Okay, so we could get more if we were willing to accept multifamily housing. That's what this, okay, I understand. All right, thank you.
And if you add back in that they're paying us 3%, I mean, it's not money in our pocket, but it does add to the cost of the purchase to them.
Okay.
Like our district, not us.
Any other additional questions or discussion? Ready to make a motion? So we're gonna make, I'm gonna make a crack of this, that we make a motion that, the district, enter into negotiations for the property at 44th Street, Indianola Avenue. With the offer presented, or regarding the offer presented by Hospice of the Valley. That might be missing in that motion.
The 3%.
Noting, that board expects negotiations will clarify the district will not pay, realtor fees for the buyer. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Board Member Kravitz. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 3-0. All right, here we go again.
No, this is good.
Exactly. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Yes. Second.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Thank you, Board Member Kravitz. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes 3-0. Thank you, we are adjourned.